Hey, everybody. Welcome to the, I guess it's technically the All-Star Week preview show, or weeks. Most leagues combining All-Star Week front end and All-Star Week back end. We'll try to break it down kind of from both vantage points on today's show and get you ready for how to use your weekly moves, what players to take chances on, and the sit-start stuff, and just carry you through either the next 7 or the next 14 days. I'm Dan Bespris. This is Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. Find me on Twitter at Dan Bespris, DanBesbris. Old Man Squad is where you can locate me over on the new Blue Sky Network. And please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. It is the most important thing you can do. Also, if you happen to be on iTunes or Spotify listening after the fact, throw that 5-star review on the bad boy. Today, ladies and gentlemen, as I record this, it is Super Bowl Sunday, meaning the biggest betting day of the year is finally here. So you got more updated odds, more props, literally hundreds, by the way, of props over at Bet Online, which continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. You can get down on MVP odds. You can bet during the game. In-game live betting opportunities keep popping up throughout the day, making Bet Online your ultimate game day companion. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-timer, visit Bet Online today and make the action on game day count just a little bit more. Bet Online, the game starts here. We are going to begin our journey today with a look at the sit-start decisions of Week 17/18, the All-Star Week. We'll start at the top. We'll work our way basically through like the top 125 players. Obviously, anybody outside of that, if they're even a game time call, you don't need to start them. And I have bad news for you guys. There are a lot of guys that are hurt going into the break. So you're going to hear a lot of no's on today's show. And for that, I apologize in advance. Anthony Davis, he left with kind of like a groin spasm in his Mavs debut game. He said that's not bad, but there's almost no way that I'm playing him this week. That's an incredibly dangerous call unless he's ruled in on Monday. That's the only way. I'd be floored, though, if AD played in that Mavs game on Monday. Thing is, so Dallas has 5 games over the 2 weeks. They have 3 of them in the first week, 2 in the second week of this All-Star deal. I think if you can play Anthony Davis for the full deal, you probably do it. I think most leagues, though, give you the opportunity to kind of reset who's in and out of your lineup, even if it's a 2-week period. Next Monday, I think they give you sort of a reset. So my feeling on Anthony Davis is probably end up sitting him this week and probably start him next week. But again, if he magically gets ruled in on Monday, then all of that becomes sort of a moot point. Kevin Durant's dealing with an ankle thing. He is effectively out for me this first week and in the second week, if you can play it like that. They've got 3 games coming out of the All-Star break. It actually launches them into a 5-game and 7-day stretch. And I think KD's back by that game on February 20th, the first one coming out of the break in San Antonio. It does kind of feel like he's probably out for these games going into the break. Like there's really not that much of a reason to push older dudes when they're about to get an entire week off. I know the Suns are sort of hanging on by a thread, and so there's going to be this impetus to try to push, but I think they feel like they can probably make that push out of the All-Star break. And the problem, of course, with KD is Phoenix doesn't have a game on Monday, so we're not going to get any more information. We're going to end up feeling stupid if he plays on Tuesday. You know, to me, best case scenario for KD is he plays on Wednesday, so you get 1 game before the break and then 3 games after. So again, if you have the opportunity to sit him this week, start him next week, that's what I would probably do. If you have to make the 2-week call immediately, you probably throw him in there because 3 games out of KD would still be pretty good. Kristaps Porzingis was a late scratch for the Celtics before their game on, I think that was Saturday. And we'll get more information on him tomorrow, Monday. Weekly lineup lock day. They're in Miami. It's one of the first games on the card. If Porzingis is out, you bench him. Boston has a bad schedule over All-Star weeks. They have 4 games between the 2 weeks combined, 2-2, and their 2 going into the break are on the very high traffic days, so you'll likely have some other option you could use there. Not that you want to have to bench Porzingis because he's a second rounder per game, but you kind of catch my meaning. If he gets ruled in on Monday, great. You don't have to worry about it. But if he's ruled out, bench him for the first week, probably start him for the second week. Or if you don't have that option, you just bench him the whole way through. Anthony Edwards was also a game time call that went the wrong way on Saturday. Minnesota does have a game on Monday, and it's a 3-game first half of this. So hopefully Anthony Edwards gets ruled in on Monday, and then you can start him. Man, I'm tempted to say start him regardless. They've got 5 games between the 2 weeks, so a decent schedule. It is a bit front-loaded, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday of this week, and then Friday and Sunday after the break. So there's a long layoff there. And again, look, I don't know more about what he's going through than you guys do. We just know the Ant-Man is extraordinarily durable, typically. So I would lean towards a yes, but obviously we're going to get more information on Monday, right before lineup lock. They're in Cleveland. It's a big ball game. I think he's going to want to be in that. They beat Portland without him. I think he's going to play. I think he's going to play on Monday. I think he's going to play all 5 of these games. It's a hunch. Let's go to the next page of start-sit decisions. LeBron is expected to return on Monday along with Luka Doncic, so all of those guys can get fired up. Chet Holmgren sat out a back-to-back. His minutes are extremely low right now, which makes him kind of a tough play for another game or two. OKC is in the midst of a 5 games in 7 days stretch, so my guess would be that he plays on Monday and Thursday of this coming week, probably in the low to mid-20s in minutes. It's probably a start in that amount of time, so I would lean towards yes. The only reason I have pause is that OKC has a back-to-back on the 23rd and 24th. That's the Sunday, Monday after the All-Star break. And if he sits out the Sunday game there, then you'd only get a 1-game week out of Chet on the second half of this stuff. And so, again, if you can start him for the first week, I'd say yes. For the second week, he might actually be a no on the fear that he only plays in 1 game. But we'll talk about that again when we do our next weekly show. Oh, you know what? That won't be next Sunday. That'll be later in the week, like closer to the end of the All-Star break. And I'll let you guys know a bit more about how the schedule is going to work for me over the next few days. But we are not going to have shows the entire All-Star break. We'll have some, but it won't be every day. I'm going on break. LaMelo Ball just got ruled out for Charlotte's game on Sunday. I am praying that it's because it's the front end of a back-to-back, and they figure, all right, we can play him on Monday in Brooklyn, we can play him on Wednesday in Orlando, and then he's off for a whole bunch of time. I don't know for sure if it's a re-aggravation of the ankle. That would be, that's crushing. So anyway, the good news is we're going to get information on LaMelo tomorrow on Monday. I keep saying tomorrow. I am recording this show on Sunday. I don't know when you guys are going to watch it, but we're going to get more information on Ball before their game against Brooklyn on Monday. If he's out for that one, you sit him. If he's in, you play him. Keep it simple. KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Cade Cunningham is expected back, so he's in. Joel Embiid is expected to play, so I would assume, I guess we can't really assume anything with Embiid. Oh, Joel. They do not play on Monday, and then they have a back-to-back. So Embiid's probably a sit here on the front half because that's a 1-gamer in a good scenario, and probably a play on the back half. 3 games max out of Embiid is probably a sit if you have to make the combined decision. And that's where I sit with him. Mark Williams, he's on his way back to rejoin the Hornets. We don't know when. So he's a bench unless we get a good report on him joining the team in Brooklyn on Monday. That would mean if he doesn't, that's a 1-game week at most here going into the break and only 2 coming out. So again, that's a bench for the entirety. If you have to, you could also start him after the All-Star break if you need to. John Collins sat the last one out for rest. They were quite clear about it. It was a back-to-back. It was the second game in a 5 games and 7-night stretch. He'll play against the Lakers on Monday, I would imagine. He might play against the Lakers again on Wednesday, or maybe they give him that one off and play him Thursday against the Clippers, so he gets to go once against each team because he missed the Clippers game this last time around. So I think you get Monday, Thursday out of John Collins, and then coming out of the break, it's a back-to-back. So probably a 1-gamer there. So I would start John Collins this week, and I would probably bench him next week. And if you have to make the full call right now, it's probably a bench because you're probably only getting 3 games. They said Walker Kessler was out for a shoulder. I think it was because it was a back-to-back, which again makes you kind of feel like you're going to get 3 games out of him here as well. So same thing for Kessler as you did for John Collins. Jakob Poeltl is a bench. OG Anunoby is a bench until we actually see these guys get back in. You're not going to take any shots there. Tari Eason, he's sitting a back-to-back on Sunday. Houston's upcoming schedule does include back-to-backs on both halves of the All-Star weeks. So he's a bench because you're going to get 1 game out of him this week, 1 game next week. That ain't enough either time, as much as I love Tari Eason. Freddie VanVleet is a bench for this week. We'll see if we get any good report on him coming out of the break, but don't do anything with him right now. Giannis just got a report on Giannis Antetokounmpo earlier this morning that he's out through the All-Star break. So he's going to miss the game against Philly today, Sunday. He'll miss the game against the Warriors Monday. He'll miss the game against Minnesota on Wednesday. And then you hope he's ready coming out of the break, but we don't even know if that's going to be the case yet. So very much a bench this week. If you have to combine the 2 weeks, you bench him because you don't know if he's going to be ready for that first game afterwards. If we get a good report for him, because they do play that first Thursday after the break, then you could get him in, but we're not going to have information there until, I would think, Wednesday of the following week after the break at the earliest on when we think Giannis is going to get back in there. Michael Porter Jr. was a late scratch for Denver's game in Phoenix on Saturday. They play on Monday. So again, he can be very much like we talk about it. So whatever happens on Monday is whatever you do for the week. If he's in, he's in. If he's out, he's out. Miles Turner, probably a bench. He's dealing with a cervical strain in his neck. It's not a concussion, so I guess that's the good news there. But they don't play Monday, so we're not going to get information in time for lineup lock. And I just assume that he misses another ball game. Maybe he doesn't, but look, like Miles Turner hasn't been good enough this year where you're going to be really kicking yourself if you screw this one up. So lean towards a sit, because a 0 would be way worse than just playing like kind of not a great option. Lauri Markkanen, same general story as Kessler and John Collins. Same thing. These guys are all getting rest in back-to-backs. I think they play 2 games this week and 1 coming out of the break. So, again, it'll be a bench if you have to combine them. It's a start this week if you can, and then a bench the second week if you can. Jalen Suggs, I'm not playing him until he's in there. Bradley Beal, same as Kevin Durant. I think I would lean towards a bench unless we get some sort of good news way, way, way in advance. Brandon Ingram's out. PJ Washington sprained an ankle. We'll get more information again. It's nice when teams play on Monday because at least we're going to get some more data on it. If he's in on Monday, you start him. If he's out on Monday, you don't. So, again, play it that same way. I need to come up with a nice shorthand for whatever happens on Monday is what you do with the player. So maybe I'll call it follow the Monday. Follow the Monday. If he's out, you sit him. If he's in, you start him. And we're getting towards the end of the line here of anybody that you'd even consider putting in your lineup. There's a lot of guys that are game time calls that, every one of these guys is out unless Lonzo Ball is the only guy in there where I would consider playing him even with a game time decision tag, but they've got a back-to-back. So out. Anybody after 100 at this point, if there's any question mark on them, you sit them. Every one of these names you can see me scrolling past on your screen on YouTube, you sit them. Everyone. Unless someone magically gets ruled in on a Monday. Like if Alex Sarr, I just flipped back Alex Sarr. Was there an update on him? No, just that he was out for their Saturday game. If he magically gets ruled in, I assume he's coming back after the All-Star break. But if he gets ruled in on Monday, like there's a guy after 100 that you could drop into a lineup because we haven't seen him without JV. Anyway, the options are slim for that zone. Let us actually, before we do the streaming grid, and I'll throw it up on the screen just so you guys can see what we're working with here, and it's a 2-weeker. That's what the streaming grid is going to go to. Oh, you know what? Let's share this instead. UnderdogFantasy.com. I actually built my card beforehand today because this show is getting released like right as the games are starting. I went Miles Bridges higher than, what's the number there? It doesn't show up all that well. I'll zoom in. 36.5 PRA, points, rebounds, and assists, because LaMelo Ball and Nick Smith Jr. both just got ruled out for Charlotte. So it's Miles Bridges like against the world and a bunch of cardboard cutouts. And on the other side, with Giannis being ruled out, everybody's getting in on the Bobby Portis hire. I went Gary Trent Jr. because he's just been taking more shots lately, 10, 11, 12 shots a game here with Giannis out. So Gary Trent, I went higher, 13.5 points, rebounds, and assists. I know there aren't many rebounds or assists, so we basically need him to get there with scoring. I did this really, really fast because, again, I knew the games were about to begin. I only put $3 on it because, again, I didn't take much time to think it through. Maybe I should have gone Gary Trent just points only, which, what would that have been? Oh, 9.5? Yeah, that's probably what I should have done. Because now I'm saying I think he gets more than 4 combined rebounds and assists, and that feels like he might get 0 rebounds. He might get 1 or 2 assists. I think I probably did that stupidly. I probably should have just gone scoring for Trent and assume he, makes 3 or 4 shots in the ball game and actually gets there. But you can see, look how high the numbers are for Portis. 33.5 was the PRA. That's a big number. I went with a slightly lesser known asset. Sign up today at underdogfantasy.com using promo code OLDMAN, OLDMAN, or click the link in the show description and unlock up to $1,000 in deposit match bonus credit. Also, a free play comes in. Wouldn't it have been nice if I could have just gone with the Miles Bridges play and one freebie? Yeah, that would have been nice. Also, rolling right now, and I can't show it on the screen. There's basically a no sweat play on the Super Bowl. So you got to get in on that today. Just pick 2 anything, higher or lower, on the Super Bowl. They can't be on the same team. It's got to be one from the Chiefs, one from the Eagles. If you lose, you get your money back as credits, meaning you have to play it again. You can't cash it out, but it's basically a no-lose wager. If you lose, you push. If you win, you win. So get in on that immediately. It's a $10 max on that one. So they're basically just giving you an opportunity to turn $10 into, 15 to 30, something like that in that range, depending on the odds on the plays you're making. But that'd be a really great way to start on top of the $1,000, up to $1,000 in match bonus. And then on the next one, you use the free play. So start, I don't know, put in $100. They'll give you an extra 50. With your first $10 bet, you make the no sweat play. Say you win it. All right, boom. All of a sudden, you're up to $190 in your account. Next play, use the freebie. Only have to pick one winner in that one. Let's say you hit that as well. Bang, put another $10 on that. You're up to $220. I screwed that up. It was been 180 and then 210. I can do the math. Not today, apparently, but in general. Let's get back to sharing this thing. Again, underdogfantasy.com. Check them out now. Promo code again is OLDMAN, OLDMAN. Every single team in the NBA plays at least 2 games leading into the All-Star break. The only note here is that every single team plays on Wednesday of this week. So you have the prototypical overload day, which of course means that streaming this week is a little bit goofy. I don't know that I would do much of anything until Thursday if you're talking about like just straight daily stream stuff. What you need to do, and then we'll get into some of the like little goofball things going on this week. What you need to do is figure out in your league, do you get 4 moves for this week and 4 for next week? Or do you get 4 moves combined? Because that's a really big deal, and it means that you need to be super judicious with how you use your moves. For me, I know a lot of my leagues are on Yahoo. Swear to goodness, folks, I'm going to cough until the day I die. This flu will never completely go away. I'm on Yahoo. Those moves are combined. I only have 4 moves for all 14 days. So I am basically, with extremely rare exceptions of guys that are like clunkers, like I got stuck with a Dalton Connect when I thought he was going to do a bunch of stuff in Charlotte, and now that he's getting sent back to being, a bench gunner who gets 6 shots or whatever for the Lakers, like that's a guy I'm okay with you getting off of on Monday. If you were out of moves this week, you're stuck. Monday, you can remove yourself from Dalton Connect. Or if you have a streamer who's injured or something like that. If you're basically looking down the barrel of a 0 or a near 0, you can use moves on Monday to get off of that. But otherwise, you kind of just need to let it ride at least until Thursday of this first week. Because again, and like I'll highlight it here on the screen. By the way, if you're listening and not watching, if you're watching on YouTube, fantastic. Hey, this would be a great time for me to remind everybody, so I'm going to do it. Subscribe. We're working so hard over here at Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. By the way, there's really cool stuff coming. Promo time for this network. Baseball videos are coming. The great Joe Orico, amazing fantasy baseball analyst, is going to start putting out videos on this YouTube feed and on his show feed. That's called 90 Feet From Home. You can get that wherever podcasts can be found. So again, baseball is coming. We also have, and I can't say more yet, we have another fantasy basketball analyst who's fantastic, a very, very, very good friend of mine, who's going to start doing some videos for us here on the YouTube page as well. So Old Man Squad is about to get a big kick in the pants, adding to me and Brenton right now. So subscribe. Good stuff is coming. But anyway, as I was saying, I'm highlighting Monday through Wednesday on this board here. And if you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, go to the show description. The Google Sheet link is there, and then just navigate over to the streaming calendar tab so you can do this with us. Pause the show, open it up, come join us. There are just, I think, triple checking myself. This is what I wrote down. There are 2 teams that only have one game the first 3 days this week. 28 out of the 30 teams in the NBA play twice between Monday and Wednesday. Also notable, nobody starts the week with a back-to-back. And that's why I'm basically saying you almost have to hold on to your moves until Thursday, aside from those very rare scenarios. And I'll color code it. I can't color code it because I went full screen mode. Can I color code it if I bring this back? All right, we're going to color code Houston and the Clippers, sort of like a deep, stinky yellow. Yeah, that's right. I call it deep, stinky yellow. As you can see, I'm obviously in graphic design. Houston and the Clippers are off Monday and Tuesday, and then they have a back-to-back Wednesday, Thursday. I bring them up as, again, aside from getting stuck with a player who's like a near zero, Houston and the Clippers are teams where I am okay if you wanted to move off of them early in the week. Because, again, you're talking about the only games they play are Overload Wednesday and a nice low tide Thursday. So it's not even clear that you're going to get the game out of Houston and the Clippers on Wednesday. If you're streaming Derek Jones, if you're streaming Cam Whitmore, by the way, this is especially notable for Houston because they had a 5-game week last week. So a lot of these fringy Rockets were on rosters. People picked up Cam Whitmore as they should have. He had if you roll all 5 games together, he had a pretty good week. People picked up Reed Shepherd. Point is, everybody was streaming Rockets, and now they go into being one of the poor schedules. So that guy, let's say it's Cam Whitmore, he's probably not making your starting 10 on Wednesday anyway. So effectively, your Rocket streamer has 1 game on Thursday this week. What do we do about that? Well, find a team that's playing 3 times or twice everybody plays on Wednesday. Twice outside of Wednesday is probably the better way to describe it. Who plays twice outside of Wednesday? Dallas, Golden State are options. Miami, Minnesota, New Orleans, Oklahoma City, Sacramento, and Utah. Utah, by the way, especially interesting because the regulars are probably going to sit one of those 2 games on the back-to-back Wednesday, Thursday. But that's a lot of streaming options to go from Houston or, what we talked about, a 0 or a near 0 to one of these other teams. If you're thinking about Dallas, Max Christie hasn't been added everywhere yet. I don't know if PJ Washington or Anthony Davis is going to be back for that ball game, meaning Najee Marshall has streaming opportunity in front of him. Spencer Dinwiddie kind of moves back into the maybe pile. There's like a solid 3 names on Dallas that you could throw in as who do you pivot to here? Golden State, they've thinned their team out, which is great for like literally all purposes. Brandon Pajemski, Buddy Hield are your best streaming options there. They went to a pretty tight rotation actually in that last ball game. Moses Moody would be sort of like the fringiest one, or Quentin Post would be kind of a fringy one. If you want to just go rebounds, you could maybe even stretch it as far as Kevon Looney. I wouldn't. Miami, are they going to integrate their new guys? I don't think I would do anything with Miami until we see what that looks like. Minnesota, Nickeil Alexander-Walker looked great. If you think Mike Conley's still out, that's a possibility there. New Orleans, Jose Alvarado. He's a pickup no matter what you're looking at there. Maybe you go Jordan Hawkins. Maybe Yves Missy got dropped. Oklahoma City, Aaron Wiggins has been storming the castle of late. Sacramento, Keon Ellis, Jake LaRavia, Jonas Valanciunas. Only one of those guys is one that I'd want on my team that's not for the volume. And then Utah, I mean, Jordan Clarkson is probably on some waiver wires because of how long he was hurt, but he probably sits one of those 3 games. Is Kyle Filipowski worth it? I don't know. Put it all together, you've got like a solid 10 to 12 pickup options to move away from Houston, to move away from the Clippers fringe guys, and someone else on your team that might be sort of like a near zero. And that's kind of the only thing you need to worry about this week, because I just listed off all the teams that have 3 games going into the All-Star break. But again, like, one of those games is on Wednesday, but that's the case for everybody. So that's kind of what you're working with here. The reason that I'm not having you guys pivot off of other teams early is because they play Monday or Tuesday. So just get that game out of them. Let them roll through Wednesday. If you wanted to make your move on Wednesday instead, that's also fine, to, you know, one of these, the teams I just mentioned, Dallas, Golden State, blah, 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 etc. Like if you have, I don't know what streamer you might have out there. Maybe you're streaming an Atlanta Hawk, like a George Niang or something like that, or a Vit Krejci. Maybe it doesn't go all that great. On Wednesday, you could switch. Crap, even on Tuesday, you could switch to someone else, but then you're not going to get the Thursday game. But like, on Wednesday or Thursday, it doesn't really matter which day you switch there. I prefer Thursday because you have a better idea of what stats you need and who's in and who's out. But again, that's why I would wait through. You save those moves on the teams that are actually going to play Monday or Tuesday and use the move a little bit later. On the back end of the All-Star double week, you actually have one team with a legitimately bad schedule, and that's the Sacramento Kings. Also, you don't have any overload days in there. And again, we'll go through this one more time after the All-Star break, because I do think that most leagues let you switch up your lineup on, like, leading up to week 18. Most fantasy leagues are not locking you in for 2 weeks on Monday. They'll lock you in for 1 and then unlock you next weekend through basically Thursday, and you can relock different lineups at that point. So assuming that that's the way it goes, because I really hope that's the way it goes. Otherwise, you know, it's all the stuff we talked about before. Every single team in the NBA goes either 4 or 5 times between the 2 halves of the All-Star week. So there isn't like this overarching, you know, you got to get off of one team, get onto another. If you're locked in for the duration, then don't use moves this week. Not that, like, if you're locked in for the 2 weeks, then it doesn't really matter what you're doing. Okay, that's more of the weekly format stuff we talked about. If we're talking about daily stuff, well, that's why we went through all the players that had game time calls. And then, unfortunately, things are going to happen, and, like, more guys are going to go down, and there's not going to be much you can do about it. But let's say for week 18, the second half, if you're not locked in yet, we'll talk about that on our next preview show, which, again, will probably be like next Wednesday, something like that. If you're daily, the rest of this stuff is pretty straightforward. Like, you're looking to pivot off of teams that have bad schedules after the break, which is Sacramento, because they go only Friday after the All-Star break. That's February 21st. And you can switch to, well, let's see. We can scroll through it on the board here. Cleveland has 3 games after the break. Memphis, Milwaukee, New York, Orlando, Phoenix, San Antonio. All of those teams have 3 games after the All-Star break. But also, here's the thing. If we're talking daily moves, what I am telling you here on February 9th or 10th, whenever you're listening to this show, is not going to be true on February 20th. So I'm not going to give you streaming options there. I'm just going to tell you something to kind of look ahead to. Make sure that you have a move ready to move off of Sacramento streamers after the All-Star break starts. Because, again, Sacramento actually has a good schedule this week before the bad schedule next week. If you wanted to get on to San Antonio during the All-Star break, that's a really good spot to go because they come out of the break with an immediate 5-game in 7-day stretch. You could also do a couple of things. There's Orlando that has the back-to-back there, and then Phoenix starts a 5-7 on Saturday of the following week. So there's all these combos you can put together, but I would say don't use more than 2 moves this week. Save half of your weekly moves for the post-break, whatever the hell's going on there. But again, like, I'm not going to tell you to save all of them because if you have folks that are taking zeros right now or near zeros on a double week like this, you got to get off of them. Again, we'll talk more about it in our next preview show as well. That's we're going to wrap this one up. That's it. We're done. The show went longer than I intended. I'm Dan Vespers. If you made it this far, again, you know the rule. You got to subscribe, so please do that. At Dan Vespers on Twitter. I'll see you guys over on social where we do a lot of work. And again, a lot of stuff right now is moving into Discord just because it's easier. It's just a big chat room. It's called Discord, which sounds very scary to those of us who are afraid of change and new things. It doesn't create any Discord. It's just a chat room. It's a chat room. And you can mute whatever channels you don't want to hear from. You can just leave the channels on. If all you want to do is know when my shows drop and when I do, nightly recaps and stuff like that, it's pretty easy to figure out. That's in the show description. Our 2 partners, BetOnline and Underdog, are also in the show description, as is the streaming calendar that we were working with. All of that stuff is in the show description. So come hang out with me, us, whatever, as we continue to grow Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. Our next show will be first thing on Monday morning. Give you that big, nice weekend review. And then we dive into a brand new week of just trying to win at fantasy basketball. Thanks for watching. Thanks for following. I'll see you guys over on social in between. I'm Dan. I'm out.